Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. I wanted to point out again just how terrible this design is for puzzle pieces. Made by someone who literally has never seen a puzzle, it feels like. There's so much better ways you could have fixed this and had a pattern. Uh, it doesn't matter, of course, but it is just like weird. Um, Starting particularly late today, half because of my insomnia has just like shifted me to waking up at 5 or 6 in the evening, and then by the time I'm ready to stream, it's 8 or 9 in the evening. My network is having all kinds of trouble today too, so uh, I imagine we're gonna potentially have some problems as it goes. So like I don't know how to really address that other than my internet service provider has just been terrible for like a month straight now. Um, for the accountability section, I am slightly. I've made some progress playing Pinball Arcade. I played Fishtails, which is kind of a boring table. It's very standard, but it's not anything particularly special. And thematically, I feel like there's just a lot of things there. I didn't even log in yesterday to re-roll that like I should have. So I guess we're looking for Dragoncraft or Bloodcraft with one Runecraft as far as our goal today. We've got some new temporary decks, which if you were going to get temporary decks, where do you even get those? Like, trade temporary cards. It's like I have all these gems. I could certainly try to obtain new temporary cards, and that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. It's just, I think the expense to get one of everything is a little high. Although it does seem like as it kind of goes down the path, even with new expansions, there aren't really any way to expand this, so it probably does make sense to just do this and this, and then have at least one temporary card. The only thing about temporary cards is the idea that um you can't turn them into dust, but that really doesn't matter that much. And I suppose might as well just go down the route of Forestcraft before we do anything else, since it seems like we're just always going to lean heavily on Forestcraft as the deck. Besides Fishtails, let's see, I played Black Rose, which is a pirate themed pinball table with a pirate cannon. It's a pretty good table, but it is also kind of one note in that you are having to get really good about loading the cannon so that this under table ball launcher that looks like a cannon can then launch the ball all the way up the center lane shot, and then it shoots the ball back at you with a ramp that goes completely vertically in the middle of your eye line, which is kind of annoying. I played a billiard themed table. I can't remember the name of it. I don't think it's called Hot Shot. See, yeah, and already there goes all my temporary gems. But there was some table that allowed me to, that had a full size cue ball and a few full size 8-ball on it, although they weren't really the real cue balls and 8-balls. They were much lighter than that. Let's see. Havencraft, perhaps? I apparently have one ticket, so I might as well just get this Havencraft pre-built deck. Okay, so we'll save that as a pre-built deck. And see, the pre-built deck's cards, I don't think actually are cards that are temporary cards. So I think I actually did get a decent amount of regular cards that way. So logically, it is better to get the pre-built decks, all of which are available. Tournament winning decks wouldn't be a terrible thought, frankly. Let's see. Would I be missing any of the decks? Let's see, missing cards. Yeah. See, that would be the problem, is if I was gonna try to look at every deck that were tournament winning, I bet we can't find a single deck that I have most of the items from, which really goes to highlight just how many more cards there are to own, or how many copies of 3 cards. Also, you can take note that almost every deck here, even though it has 40 cards, it's accomplishing that by giving 3 copies of everything. So there's definitely some trash cards that also exist. And that's not really being taken into effect. Alright, well, this works. Prioritize animated cards? Sure, why not? Wow, it's sending me all around in circles. But alright, let's rename this as Haven Tournament. Haven Tourney, sure, why not? That seems like a decent name for a deck. And that also makes an argument to getting rid of like these 2 Havencraft decks, which, sure, why not? Because they haven't done anything for me, and I don't feel like rebuilding a deck myself if I can just look at the other decks and see if that works for me. I feel like I covered more tables than just those 3 since I last streamed. But yeah, I'm not sure I recall anything else. So I need to definitely start down the path of trying to get more of these cards. But a lot of these are just like 3 high tier cards, 3 copies of the high tier cards. Also, I have only like 70 vials, so I would need 20,000. Well, that might be the next step as far as trying to craft cards, is reevaluate, do I want to specifically have just 1 card of everything so I can look at it, or should I go down the route of actually having specific cards that are actually good? The way I play a lot of collectible card games probably could be benefited if I just won more often. and focus more on winning. Yeah, I'm fairly certain I played some other tables, but I can't even remember what they were, so they weren't particularly that great. There definitely were a couple of tables that I recognize I did not enjoy at all very quickly, and I was like 30 minutes into playing it, and then I decided nope, that is not for me. What happened to the pre-built decks we just saw with the ticket? I guess they were in that mix. Well, we've got Spy Pack here, and open this deck. Also, I'm still working on the Circuit Playground Express. Like one of the features had been disabled, so I'm actually trying to, like through GitHub, actually submit an issue and see if they'll actually fix it. Whereas so far in my foray of sticking my toe into trying to deal with GitHub, it's been pretty bad, and like I made a project and stuck it up there and then pretty much forgot all about it, so, and nobody has cared enough to even find it, let alone do anything with it. Yeah, I think there are questions in my mind certainly about the activeness of communities on GitHub. They can be very small, they can be very insular, they can be groups of people that are kind of pains in the butt. This is programmers we're talking about, so that is all very, very believable. But yeah, also on the Circuit Playground Express, I'm trying to use every feature that makes sense, and it can send and receive through infrared a signed 32-bit number, which is about 2 billion, which would be great and all, except for there's no way for it to use that single packet in any form. Like, you literally at any point could get one signed 32-bit number, and then you'd have to decode that signed 32-bit number to mean something. If you get a different number at a different time, who knows? If it's out of order, who knows? Which inherently makes it unworth the effort, because while you could, for instance, send the number 66 and have a code system that the number 66 means to eliminate all the Jedi, for a Star Wars reference there, and you could have like 2 billion different codes like that, not very, very useful. Not very useful at all. Particularly with the Circuit Playground Express as it is, because like you can't really get that information out of it easily. And for the bathroom buddy features that I'm trying to program into it, where it plays London Bridges while you brush your teeth and sings Happy Birthday while you wash your hands, there's a few settings, as I'm trying to expand it, that would be nice if you could change those over to something else, or copy those settings over, and instead of perhaps having to struggle with adjusting each new device from default settings to what you wanted. But that's about it. I'm gonna put a log in it. It's kind of impossible to test to see if the hard drive is full on it for the storage extension plugin, so theoretically you could put several years of logs on it just to say when things happen, but there's no real-time clock, so all you can say is from the time that this reset, from the time this product reset, these things happened, which that doesn't help you much. Now this deck, I have no idea what this deck was built around. For a tournament winner. So this might be a very difficult deck to play. So yeah, there's probably 4 or 5 different settings you could send that are 255 from that are usually between 0 and 255, which would be an 8-bit number. So theoretically, if it was a signed 32-bit number, theoretically you could get 4 values in there, and through a lot of complicated math, more than anything else. But in practicality, being signed and trying to do the math a little bit simpler, you're actually only going to be able to get 3 values that you could send. And it's kind of not worth it at that point. Let's see. Should I play this now or should I wait? Let's just wait. Yeah. In theory, 255 would easily squeeze into sections, get you potentially 9 variables between 0 and 255 in the way you would do that, but MakeCode does not allow for bitwise shifting, which is the thing you would need to do, because you could take 255 and then shift those bits by 8, and then take another 255 and shift those bits by 8, and then take another 255 and shift those bits by 8, and then that would be your that would be the that would be the one number, and you could theoretically do that for 4 variables, and then those numbers would be unique and de-encodable easily. But it's just not that simple. The math's too difficult. And yeah, so infrared I think I'm gonna skip. I can't think of anything that useful. The other thing I'd say is unless you're going to have a specific like remote that works with it, that you know it can receive and will get some kind of number from that, and the packaging and formatting is all right, you're probably not going to be able to use the infrared receiver for much. Of course, if I was using Circuit Playground, if I was using Circuit Python instead, I could do a lot more complicated things, but I'm already 3 or 4 days into this project, and I'm fairly close to being done with it, but not as close as I should be.
That's too bad.
Let's see. So yeah, it would be too much of a hassle to start all over and move all the code to CircuitPython. Although that probably is the better solution. I was able to get a count, and it's pretty much you can't do any code without having at least 500 lines of code, even if it is drag and drop, scratch style block animation. So, 2 play points.
Should we fall?
And I think that that probably is a highlighting factor, is that even if you are using make code or scratch and doing drag and drop blocks, you're still really not using less code. You're not making anything less complicated. It is a one-to-one comparison to actual coding for the most part. If anything, you're making things more complicated, because if a more advanced programmer can do one-liners that will do multiple things, and since you're using embedded circuitry anyways, it is kind of weird to potentially suggest a use of functions to save coding, because it's, I don't think, being optimized in any way. So yeah, without that optimization and removing of functions, there's some danger there. And when you talk about like embedded code, there's a reason why you would just start hard coding numbers if you're never going to change them. But the first thought would be, can you implement a system in which these hard coded numbers would change, or are they always going to be the same? Particularly in trying to think how I would encode a bunch of information into one number. I was using 2 exponential 32 to get what a 32-bit number would be, which means that calculation would be done every time it's run, and it's not necessary to do that when I could easily just use a calculator. This one won't evolve. Store 3.
I shall give birth to a new world.
I have no idea what I'm trying to accomplish here. Whether it's drawing a specific card, or whether it's accomplishing something else.
Behold the fists of immortal supremacy.
There's a lot more where that came from.
I had to, on the Circuit Playground Express, I don't know why I'm talking about any of this really. I should just be moving on with the video game news, but clearly video games haven't been on the forefront of my mind. Although my right hand feels really stiff at the moment. It's does not feel great. See, if the idea here was to shift cards to make them run out of cards, I don't know how you're gonna pull that off. The screenshot, the backlight function, like, I was trying to figure out the best way to make that happen, and I figured the best way I could do that is actually by checking all of the oh, I'm about to lose. Oh, that is dumb. Store 3 defense to your leader.
This is not the end.
I see the strategy here. You get this on the field and you get this on the field. You keep your health high enough. I could have won at that point. Do I even need a Havencraft victory today, though? No. So, we'll have to get back to this deck later. Well, what kind of victories did we need today? Runecraft, Dragoncraft, Bloodcraft. So yeah, I had to figure out a way to test each of the LED lights to make sure that they were off effectively. And by testing that they were off, it then can wait a second and test again and then say, okay, we're not doing anything at this point. And when all 10 of the LEDs are off, that means it's time to turn the backlight mode back on.
This one's for my family.
Or more accurately, in the tweaking, I basically set it so that the backlight comes on always anyways and just never goes off. I still probably have some work on to do on it, come to think of it. The part of the problem certainly is that in coding is, particularly with mate code where you're jumping around to a bunch of triggered events and different blocks instead of just a linear code, there is a there's a level of that. I see Nutrilogus is on the chat. He says, "Hi Rydo, do you want to play the Shadowverse with me?" I think I think if you make a private game, I can join. Let's see. Let's just forfeit this match. If you can give me a private game code, or I can make a private game code, we'll just race to see who gets one first. I think I can get daily missions this way. If we play something. Well, we can play at least one game, sure. It gives me an excuse to try out this tournament winning deck at least. Private, create a private match, regular, rotation, single match, create match. And then we'll try this tournament deck again. So yeah, join the private match 54840 and we can play one game. Meanwhile, since I've just been meandering and talking about programming and miserable fails at programming, it really does go to highlight that unless I was getting paid for it and I could do 8 hours of programming a day and I had a support team of other programmers around me and goals assigned to me, I don't think I would be a particularly good programmer. And I think that's true for most programmers. There are hobbyist programmers who can do projects and take their time and get it done whenever they feel like it, or give up at any point they feel like it. And I definitely am more in that category than a programmer for like a video game company who's going to have the whip cracked on his Mac if he's not making significant progress every day, every week. And also they're going to be working with people. They're going to be constantly getting extended education and increased information. They're going to be using internal software, internal code, and internal optimization. Whereas the hobbyist programmers basically going to use either open source software or have to roll their own, and just start from scratch to do even simplistic things. And that is certainly part of the reason why we have it takes so long to make games. Alright, well, I'll give Niche Lotus a few minutes, but yeah, I guess if he doesn't join, he may have gotten distracted or something. So we'll cover the video game news while we're here. Here we have a game called FPS Tactics on Steam, which looks like a first-person shooter for $5.99, English only, 1 achievement, which is funny because achievements are alright, so do we want a friend request this? Sure. And then we'll send a friend request and I'll put myself as ready. And then we'll play. And we'll focus on this game since I'm actually playing somebody I know and not dance too far around to things like this, Born Race, which is just a sperm racing game from the looks of it and doesn't look particularly well designed. $2.99 English and Portuguese Brazil. Seems like it's a probably joke game. I did change the settings, not fast enough, but starting Wednesday, I suppose, I'll start to have more tabs in more randomized way, although not by much, because the truth of the scenario is still going to be that I have a I'm still having a lot of trouble with Twitter. Twitter is just totally broken, and I don't know if that's my internet service provider's issue or what, but unless my main Twitter feed works, I still am having to go through 4 or 5 different Twitter feeds.
But make it fashion.
I did hear about a big leak from Facebook, which, yeah, nobody's happy about that, and that seems to happen far too often. So yeah, that kind of sucks. And I have heard of a few more people getting off Twitter. I've heard of a few people also getting purged from YouTube, and either fake subscribers or real subscribers getting purged from YouTube. I'm a little afraid to look to see if all of a sudden I've lost 2 or 3 hundred subscribers to my YouTube channel, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened at some point. I barely have like 400 or 500, halfway to the 1,000. By the time I did get to 1,000, they changed the rules and say you need 10,000. Definitely feels like that's the case. Like, I could very selfishly think to myself, well, maybe a YouTube purge would be good, because then that would potentially allow me to do better in the rankings and get more views, but that's not realistic at all. That's not how that's going to go down. What's going to go down is that people just get tired of looking at YouTube altogether and stop watching things. More and more, when I run across a channel that has like 200 or 300 subscribers, I'm just subscribing to them out of pity and helpfulness. I would love to have 1,000 subscribers, and that would mean I would turn on ads, but I would try to be as nice about it as possible. I don't want to irritate my fan base or anybody really, but if I could get even a few $100s a year, that would serve a little bit to justify running a YouTube channel that now has like 9,000 videos on it. And in a lot of ways, the plan for my YouTube channel was to have evergreen content that people at any point would go back and want to watch. And YouTube is just not designed for evergreen content. It does not promote it at all, which means you have to constantly work. So YouTubers, when they start hitting 65, 70, 75, if they've been running if they've been running a YouTube channel since they were in their 30s or 40s, even if they were amazingly successful, they would not be able to work when they're 75. And that's why the whole idea of retirement and Social Security is important and exists. Okay, so you want to put this on the field, and then I think you want to do this. Interesting.
I'll open the way. You follow behind.
So yeah, I think there is a strategy around this. What do we want to do?
Things I do for fashion.
Then do this. I guess we want to play more Holy Sanctuaries. Interesting. As a concept. I don't think that's the full concept. I think the full concept would be to try to invoke this so it evolves. I've totally forgotten about whatever I was talking about. Okay, if we play this,
Smiles are the best medicine.
and then deal 1 damage.
It looks like I'm up.
And then we'll evolve here.
Faith is an no, the smiles are not.
And then end the turn. Yeah, I suppose previously winning tournament decks should be a new focus, because clearly this deck is way better built, and this saves me a lot of work as potentially trying to go look up a net deck and then build that deck from some website. If I can just click copy deck. Let's see. Kill that. And then this.
Not a soul without sin.
And then evolve this.
Wings of light, show your might. Punish the wicked. Spare the innocent.
Yeah, this is gonna work, I think, really nice now. Just getting constant lions. And I should probably also put the unicorn. What is this? The lovers.
I shall give birth to a new world.
Alright, well. Kill that.
Such a lovely couple.
Do this. And I think next turn I can win. Potentially, maybe. Yeah, this feels like a much tougher fight. Like, people actually trying, I'm actually trying.
The world cycles on.
This here's the shady part of town.
Deal 6 damage. Restore 6.
Protect even in death.
Play another amulet. Yeah, I guess these holy sanctuaries do. I need to put more of these on the field. 2 or 3 of them. It does kind of turn the game into a war of attrition later on, but I suppose in tournament play, this is how it's really going to go down, is that you're going to end up struggling to win quickly. You're going to have to play the odds. Okay. Deal. Wow. Well, that looks like that would do something great. Deal X damage to enemy leader.
Look to the zenith, for there I will rise.
Put another holy sanctuary on the field. And we'll go ahead and put that on the field too. So then this raw Radiance Incarnate will just do a massive amount of damage, 7 damage and then 8 damage.
You beckoned.
You are not prepared.
The thing that's striking me about this deck, though, is that there isn't like a 5-card combination, it seems like, to actually win. It seems like there's just a collection of really good cards. Maybe that's all you really need. Well, this will win if I play this. Nope, that effect's not stackable, so that won't win. Can't evolve this. So I think doing this is probably the best bet. Hmm. And that should win.
Sure, you can have this one.
Hmm. That is definitely the most complicated thing. Alright, now I'm gonna see if he wants to play, if Nutchlotus or Minerva, I assume that it's the same person, wants to play again because he needed a victory. If he does, I'll just quick concede and hopefully that will count as a private victory. I think that works that way. But I don't want to get boggled down into playing fans too much. If anything, I probably should implement just a general I'll play the first person that asks, or I'll play each person once or twice with a quick victory rule. Although almost never is there more than 3 or 4 people on the chat, and a lot of them don't even want to play. So while we'll give Nutchlotus a few minutes here to decide if he's going to make himself ready or not. Otherwise, we'll get back to regular play. Meanwhile, we've got a game on Steam here called NGU Industries, which looks like nothing of interest. Free to play, English only. And I guess I can jump around because I don't have that many tabs open. A canceled Castlevania game, Castlevania Resurrection demo has been found. This was a Dreamcast game. So, a demo for a Dreamcast game. Does this video actually show you any footage? Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the content here for this game got moved into whatever the next Castlevania 3D game would have been, which was probably the reboot Castlevania games. Yeah, it doesn't look particularly good. For Dreamcast era, it would have been fine, but yeah, I'm not super impressed by that demo, and I certainly don't feel like I'm missing a lot of things. Yeah, we already talked about that. According to Gamma Sutra, devs have until July 20th to release a game on Vita before the digital store goes dark. We had already talked about that. I probably have a decent amount of repeated content because basically nothing happened over the weekend. Over the Easter weekend. No More Heroes 3 official live stream called No More Broadcasting 5.1 GHM has been set for April 8th. So yeah, No More Heroes 3 has apparently is still in development. They're not going to do an official broadcast just to announce that the game has been canceled or anything. Alright, here we go. We have Nutchlotus ready, so we'll hop into here. Now, I don't think that there's a specific turn that you need to do the quick disconnect, but just to be safe, I'm just going to end my turn. That way I can let Nutchlotus just wreck me.
A dazzling victory awaits.
So I'm just not going to play any cards at all and just end the turn. And we'll cover the news wall. Here we have a game on Steam called I Make Saints, which is apparently a walking simulator that looks like garbage. For $2.54 English only. Yep. It's been a bad month or two as far as games coming out. Here we have a game on Steam called X17, which looks like it's the beginnings of an attempt at a first-person shooter, but it's mostly negative, so I don't even think it got that far. $14.99 English, allegedly full audio. Here we have a game called The Sacred Stone, which looks like a RPG game. It seems to visually lack some polish. And like I'm really having a hard time even figuring out what this character looks like. Is she in a bikini? She's got like these angel wings. This definitely feels like it's just assets from a Chinese MMO. Like, and yeah, this doesn't look like much of anything in the video. I don't think you can make an RPG with just one character. This is $17.99 English and Spanish. I'm gonna have to interns earlier. Yeah, I just think in any RPG game you're going to have a collection of characters. Even if you play as only one, it gets too boring too quick to focus so much. Even Atelier Rydo, which mostly focuses on the main female protagonist, has a collection of side characters. Yeah, we have a game on Steam called Nether Nightmare, which is an asset flip horror game from the looks of it. It's mixed reviewed, $2.39 English only. Marvel Avengers is coming to PlayStation Now tomorrow. This was today, so yeah. Which, okay. This looks like Borderlands, not Marvel Avengers. Yeah, that is Borderlands 3, and this is The Long Dark, and that's... So 3 different games are coming to PlayStation Now tomorrow. I'm trying to see if I can take some pain pills. Some aspirin.
Hey, this is not the end.
Yeah, those taste awful. Just salt. Coated in salt. That's all the aspirin mostly is. Yeah, I definitely have that personality where I'll complain about my hand hurting much more often than I'll actually bother to even take an over-the-counter pain pill. And that is a problem, certainly, but not sure I have a full solution for that. Well, I keep having to come back here and seeing the missions. I have a new mission. Dragon Craft or Bloodcraft. Yeah. If I was gonna really grind, what I would do is just play private games over and over again and try and get victories and just have somebody let me win very much. But right now we're getting the chests, so it kind of makes more sense to not do that. Alright. So put that in the field. That. And that. kind of hope that these somehow help. What happened there? I must have overclicked something. There we go. So that's a little attempt to see if this pre-built deck, now that I had to make changes, can still stand up, or if using a ticket to get a pre-built deck isn't really as useful as it seems. I guess it is only useful for a limited amount of time. I still like that we're seeing new art when it loads. I wish there was a better way to see art. Because I would love that just to be a screensaver, frankly. See, Game of Sutra has a blog here where it's several things. Apparently Apple Arcade is not just for exclusives anymore. These are like recaps. Steam, GDPR, and cookies apparently have changed. Which, okay. That's not super surprising. And then a Day of Devs Game Fest edition. It's also being mentioned here. Is from Double Fine and I Am 8-Bit. It'll be interesting. This will be the first year in which the Day of Devs by Double Fine, in particular, will be held since Microsoft acquired Double Fine. So, yeah, things might be a little bit different, or it may not happen next year at all. I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft doesn't see any real argument or use for it. Also, I should say Microsoft has hired a couple of Japanese VTubers to promote Xbox Games Pass to Japan, which definitely signals that they're not trying to actually sell the Xbox consoles, which at a certain point I think that is their plan, is that they would love to kind of get rid of the consoles always. Like, they would love to just turn it into a digital-only service that you're paying a reoccurring fee instead of a one-time fee. Everybody would love to do that. That way you're always paying and you can never get out from paying. Which, once again, that really smacks in the face of retirement or what reality is for an average worker. If you have to make so much income always to hand to somebody else, you can't just retire comfortably. The American dream, I suppose, never really was that you would build a house and live there, not paying for maintenance and repair, but I think that was kind of the idea that a lot of people thought they could do. But yeah, if you're not a good little consumer in the capitalistic system, you're not worth anything. At least that is how big corporations think.
Mankind's tenacity will exterminate you, vermin.
Okay.
Pity is for the weak.
Sand in my eyes.
Oh my, as promised.
There we go.
I lowballed you.
Before I get into another rant, though, let's try to hurry here. It's already close to 10 Central Time. Here we have a game on Steam called Sea Battle Annihilation. This looks like nothing. It's $1.79, English only. That was weird. There was a video mode in one of the pinball tables I've been playing on Pinball Arcade, which at this point I cannot recommend getting Pinball Arcade. You can't get most of the tables that I have because they lost the license. Almost every table feels a little off, a little wonky as far as they're emulating, and they're all missing features that you would like to see in emulation, such as a rewind time or save state. Alright, well that didn't work great. Let's see if we can change this deck. But in the table Fishtails, which is a fishing theme table, you get this video minigame mode where you are casting out or shooting torpedoes at skiers and boats, which, while funny, does not make a lot of sense, really. Oh, another table I did was Creature from the Black Lagoon, which mixes the feelings of the movie from the creature from the Black Lagoon and just going to a drive-in movie theater. And honestly, it feels a lot more like a experiment on making something themed around Greece than anything else, like John Travolta and the movie Grease, musical Grease. What did I miss? I put one extra of something I didn't have in the deck. Yep. But see, when you edit the deck, it takes you to a whole different screen that looks exactly like the other screen, so then you have to come around here and load several times. They really need to fix their menu system. It's terrible. I'll say the mobile game Destiny Child that I'm still playing, and it's about to reset to the next big event, also kind of has that problem where you're loading a lot before you can pull anything out. But this is way worse than that.
Time to get started.
But yeah, you can pretty much tell that the Creature from the Black Lagoon pinball table, though, is so unmemorable that I totally forgot it. Moving on, we have a game called SDST Deluxe, which looks like some kind of black and white platformer of no quality. 99 cents. Let's see. A game called Tasomachi Behind the Twilight is a 3D exploring platformer releasing next week. Which, okay, from this one screenshot, that looks like that might be interesting, but I'm not really sure. A Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown 25th Anniversary DLC Experimental Aircraft Series launches this spring. Which, okay. Yeah, everything I'm saying today is just like, okay, whatever, yeah. I'm not invested in the announcements today much.
Check out my fancy footwork. Get ready to fly.
Breach of contract, huh?
Here we have Super Maze Labyrinth, which is literally just a single screen maze game for $1.79, bunch of languages. Here we have a game called Rounded Hills, which is literally just an infinite runner for 59 cents.
Let's have a sweet time.
Mankind's tenacity will exterminate you, vermin.
Here we have a game called on Steam called Set Cafe, which seems to be just a match game of no interest. $4.24, fairly expensive for what this game looks like. Kill that.
Another pointless path. You don't belong here.
Hit there. Go ahead and involve the drain character.
What a banquet. Tasty.
See, Game Master has an article here. Extensive UK loot box study digs into why players are drawn to random chance in-app purchases. If you're interested in the results there, I think it's fairly easy to just say, you know what, in-app purchases are usually unacceptable and pretty bad, and leave it at that. We don't need to investigate and go into long-running studies to know something that just by the smell of it is bad. There is a often growing anti-intellectualism that spawns from the idea of giving everything a thorough investigation when it's not necessary.
I am a prisoner of this world's whims.
For instance, like flat earthers, they'll go, well, show me the evidence, show me the research. I've done research. You've got to really look into it. You've got to do your own research. And they throw those out there like they throw out those challenges as if they should be taken seriously, when legitimately there's no reason to investigate that. Like, on 3 thoughts, you can easily know that the Earth is not flat. Which is, why would somebody say it was round if it wasn't? Who benefits? What's the purpose of the lie in the first place when you could have benefited more from the truth? How could this alleged conspiracy be held for as long as it has been held? And how can the massive amount of scientists who have existed in the past potentially been in this theoretical conspiracy such so that they would have not come out and won themselves a Nobel Peace Prize or something like that by the massive discovery? And yeah, that's more thoughts than it even deserves, really. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called No Parachute. I don't know if I made any sense there, what I just said, but yeah. Yeah, my point there is, we all know microtransactions are bad. We all know in-app purchases are bad. We all know loot boxes are bad. We're not victims of propaganda. We're victims of having experienced them ourselves and how they've affected games, even if we didn't personally spend any money on games.
Promises of pox on them.
Hey, check this out.
I promise nothing.
Just
Allow
try
me
and
to
keep
take
this
my
alive.
I am a prisoner of this world.
Who's this character? Vampire of Calamity. There was a cell phone game like this that I played for a brief moment in time. This basically is Minecraft dropper maps, but they've, instead of doing it in Minecraft, it's done in its own engine. Although this frankly looks so close to Minecraft anyways, you might as well just be doing Minecraft dropper map. And as a cell phone game, I found it interesting for a week or so, and then I found it particularly boring. The idea of just falling constantly and forever. There was basically no checkpoints. So, unless you were going to take this concept of a game and expand it and have checkpoints, you can't really improve a game like this. In the cell phone equivalent of this game that I played, you got a whole bunch of different characters that you were trying to unlock. And the characters had much more physics to them, so they would hit an edge and bounce and roll, whereas this guy is not even animated to do that, and instead if he chops off an arm, you just see a bloody stump, but he always stays in this free fall position. This is $4.49 English and Russian. What I think is weirdest about that game is the fact see. Well, I'm going to straight up lose if I do that.
I shall give birth to a new world.
Now I feel like crying.
Let's have a sweet time.
I'm gonna lose anyways. What I think is weird about No Parachute in particular is a probably low effort Russian money laundering game is that they are so many years from the point in which that concept originally came out that it feels like they might be going in cycles and circles, and we may be seeing the beginning of a whole new cycle. Why did I just win 20 gold? Because I moved up in the rank? Oh, no, because I evolved 3 times. Alright, well, let's try Runecraft. Try that. Here we have a game on Steam called Combo Head, which looks like somebody kicking a ball to make an Arkanoid game. Which, in concept, that kind of could work, but I don't think in practical application here it really has worked. And see, this line of blue on this pixely character makes me feel like this is a shirtless guy with blue underwear sagging. This is $4.99 English only. That's too expensive for what it's offering. If anything, I suppose we might be at an interesting point where because the games are so bad and because there aren't really any good games at all, that we could get through streams a lot easier, but it's really not the case because we still have the same number, if not more, of the low effort games such as Silver Vault here, which is a dungeon crawler with ugly low polygon monsters, 59 cents. Let's see. Do that. Then hit that. Here we have a game called Life in Yima, which is tagged as an action RPG. And yeah, it does look like a mobile phone action RPG. It, at first glance, kind of looks like it was just going to be a visual novel. The animation style, I think, is a little bit lacking. And most of the time you're going to have this pixel art style anyways. $5.99 English and Chinese, yeah. I don't see anything particularly quality there. Trying to get through one group of tabs, that way I can balance out the Steam games versus all the lack of video game news that exists. Here we have a game called Cursed Mansion, which is tagged RPG Maker, and it kind of looks like an RPG Maker horror game. A lot of dark screenshot syndrome happening here. It feels a lot like Corpse Party. It's $1.99 English only. Yeah, and I don't even know if I want to play Corpse Party, let alone something that is somewhat similar to that. Earth Essence in your hand. Beautiful steed in the hand. Suppose you probably want to do this. And then this. And then end the turn. Here we have a game called ADD, or ADD, which looks like it is a limbo-esque visual 2D side scroller where you're just pushing a box, or you're pushing things with a robot. Yeah, this really feels like they're just stealing concepts from Limbo. I'm not sure if there's an argument to that idea that makes it legitimate or not. English only, $4.99. And I'm not signed in, apparently. I got signed out. This is probably the best amount of amulets I'm gonna get, so probably play that to draw 3 cards. And then what else? Earth Essence.
Lawful evil. Chaotic good.
There.
Mana, come forth.
Wrongdoing? Me?
Well, that did some major damage to me, but it kind of worked. Here we have a game on Steam called Hextones. I suppose it does kind of highlight the fact that just how bad the games have been, that I didn't even realize I wasn't logged in. This actually looks like this might be a puzzle game of some interest. It's 69 cents, single player only. Seems to have 85 achievements, so it might be an achievement game. But this would be something I'd be willing to see if people would review it and like it. Cover 1 evolution points. This puts an Earth Essence in the hand. This can do this.
You've got the face of a chameleon.
I think at that point you have to put that on the field.
Twirls.
This match is mine. I love how you slip. What a
Hit that.
body you have.
Hit that.
Earthen assault.
Hit that. Let me make sure this is YouTube family friendly.
I'll hit the vanguard.
Time to say goodbye.
Here we have a game called Cute Honey 3,
This in reserve.
which seems to be
I meant it as a
trying to
compliment.
sell on sex, but isn't tagged as having sex and nudity in it. They're calling it a casual decryption type minigame. Players can draw various line segments in the game level to guide the water flow. It is just a physics game. Now there is several anime series called Cutie Honey that have been rebooted and redone. Seems they're trying for name confusion around that. While I would recommend perhaps watching some of the Cutie Honey anime series, I can't recommend this game. This looks like nothing. Plus, it's basically stealing art from Sailor Moon and other places from the looks of it. This is $1.69, Japanese and Chinese full audio. And it definitely is trying to imply that there's sex in it. Although, maybe that has to be edited in through a patch. Okay. If I hit this, if I do this though, this is the best move. You hit this, and then you do this, and then you
Stand a chance.
hit that, and then that kills me. That's bull. That's just bull. So I couldn't have attacked at all without healing myself up by health or banishing the character. That is just grade A bull. The Resident Evil Reverse Beta is now on Steam. You can play for free. Requires a Capcom ID. This is attempt, number 5 at minimum of Resident Evil. Capcom trying to turn Resident Evil into an online first-person player versus player experience, multiplayer experience. And I'm fairly certain it's not going to do any better. This was also the game where they took the layout and the levels of the Resident Evil 2 remake, and then they had to scale the characters down quite a bit so that the narrow hallways of an average game would of a survival single player game would make more sense in a player versus player scenario. So you can kind of see that here, that Leon Kennedy is barely as high as the table is. But I think you could probably excuse that as much as you can excuse like 3 tyrants. But yeah,
Don't
I'm
underestimate me.
definitely not one to bother to play a beta, let alone play an online game. Let's see. You want that on the field, I think. See, Gamma Sutra has a job listing here. You can Tactic Studios is looking for senior gameplay programmer in Ontario, Canada, or remote. I really have to wonder how many of these or remote options are legitimate offerings or not. Let's see. Gametsu has the Caligula Effect 2 second official live stream set for April 9th. Which, yeah, I think I'd have to play the Caligula Effect 1 before I could understand even the teasers and trailers for the second game. See, I guess you do this. Here we have a game on Steam called West, which looks like a survival game. It does have a slightly more soft CG look to it than a lot of other survival games, so I have to applaud them for being slightly different, but otherwise it looks completely similar to so many other games and boring. $15.99 English, allegedly full audio. Let's see. So we can play this. And hit that. Here we have a game called Alexi's Winter Night Adventure, which looks like a point-and-click adventure game. I'm not sure if there's enough here. $3.59 English and Russian. Because it's a point-and-click adventure and I'm a sucker for them, I will give it a follow, but I imagine almost certainly it won't satisfy. Here, Gamatsu has more of that Tasamachi behind the twilight. A different screenshot. Seems like these are floating Chinese coastal cities from the looks of it. I think we had seen this game before. The idea of floating boats is a little confusing, and floating cities is a little confusing, but I guess you might want a floating boat if the water is dangerous. This feels very, very Chinese. That's not inherently a bad thing, it just has to be an actual game. And if I recall correctly, this is basically the demo I'd seen before, where you're flying around and looking at things and exploring, but if that's the only gameplay loop that exists, then this is just going to be a very pretty walking simulator. So I would like to see more happen. Okay. Hit that.
potential. Got to
Then I'm gonna hit that and hit that.
No dirty tricks. Hey, no
Then
dirty
end the
tricks.
turn.
He's abound.
A game called Konda Alice Mo Suri Suru launches April 28th in Japan. This is a Yori short mystery visual novel from the creator of Flowers. So half mystery, half Yori lesbian story. Let's see, Save Me Mr. Taco Definitive Edition is coming to the Switch and PC on May 5th. Taco being the Japanese word for octopus. Which apparently that is already on Steam, so here's the game on Steam. It came out October 13th, 2018. And it's just so black and white and Game Boy looking that, yeah, nobody has, no, it isn't out yet. It was supposed to come out October 30th, 2018. Maybe that was the original version of the game. It's English and French. I just don't know. I can't see myself really playing a game like this. If I was going to play a game like this, you would hear me complain a lot about Game Boy games in general. And I know one of my fans specifically had a major fandom around Game Boy games, and I just could never get mentally into it in the same way. Do an Earthright, do 2 damage to all followers, or we could do this, and we could do this,
Best of luck to you.
and can't do that.
Lawful evil. Chaotic good.
And we can do this, I suppose.
Rains from above.
Got to
Then attack there. A arcade-inspired driving action game, Runner, has been announced for PS5 VR and PC VR, which is funny because there was a game called Ruiner already out just like a year ago, it feels like. Although that could have been 2 or 3 years ago. People are just running out of names. It's a different idea, certainly. A seated experience in VR, on-rail shooting, not the worst thought ever. So when that game does come out on Steam, I'll give it a chance. Let's see. I think we may be close to the end closer to the end of the stream than I think, as first halves. We still probably have about 30. Then we have a game called Captain Baloney Painful Days at Home, which looks like it is basically I have to say Chinese isometric point and click adventure for better description. $1.99 English only. Well, if it's English only, how come I saw Chinese lettering? Oh, I guess I didn't. Alright, well, I was wrong about that one. Well, then it's just a garbage isometric point and click adventure. Guess if we do that.
Uncharted desert awaits.
And then that.
Galaxy of gems tumbles and twirls.
And then that.
The uncharted desert awaits.
Summon 2 Earth Essences.
What do we have here? Best of luck to you.
Go ahead and evolve this one.
Mana, come forth.
I'm ready for more. What do we have here? My throat's bone dry.
I'm just warming
And
up.
hit that.
Best of luck to you.
I am just getting wrecked with too many Earth Essences on the field. Which, if there was a strategy around having a whole bunch of Earth Essences, I I'd probably be winning very well. But I don't have that. Here we have a game on Steam called Fracture Fury, which looks like nothing. Free to play with a $1.99 DLC. Although it seems to only include a cup of coffee for the developer and a wallpaper. English full audio allegedly. I don't believe that. Yep. Here we have a game called Multi-Dimensional 4 in a Row, which seems to imply it's like a 4-dimensional tic-tac-toe. Or Connect 4. I can't really see how that would actually play that way. $2.99 English only. Okay. I can do this. And I can do that. I can do this.
I serve in hopes of a better tomorrow.
And
Everything all right here?
I can do
all right
that.
here?
Best of luck to you.
I guess I do that. And then the turn. Here we have a game on Steam called Political Fight Club, which looks like nothing of interest. They're not even drawing the politicians particularly well in this case, and the demo is off a laptop. $7.99 English only. Yeah, that's a big no. Here we have a game on Steam called Recoiled. Boy, would I have nothing to talk about if I didn't talk about at least these bad games on Steam. The streams would be very, very quiet. It would, and maybe there's an argument for that too. Like, that is a certain thought that maybe I should just do mostly silent streams, and in the mostly silent streams, if people want to hop in the chat and talk, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm just gonna sit. I would just sit in quiet time and play Shadowverse. I'm sure there are people out there that would like that. I wouldn't be adding much personality, and I don't think you have much of a fair use claim at that point if you're not talking. But arguably, even what I'm doing now would be harder to defend as fair use as far as Shadowverse content. Not that I think they'd ever claim Shadowverse gameplay is copyrighted. So, I mean, that could happen.
Don't underestimate me.
Although at a certain point, I don't know why people would even be watching at that point. I've also thought about doing like a subscriber-thon type mentality to stay on longer for every new subscriber. Idea that might work to get me quite a few subscribers, but I'm not sure those are the kind of subscribers I would want, nor do I think I'd really be able to stay online, nor would I think people care if I don't have a face cam proving that I'm actually the same person playing the same game. It would be kind of bait and switchy to label something as a subscribe-a-thon for me. Here we have a game on Steam called Castle of Collapse, which unfortunately this game doesn't look terrible, although some of that red tinting definitely does. It is kind of the worst style gameplay for platforming for me. I just don't like the idea of having to constantly jump up and up and up and potentially falling down. I don't know if falling down is an immediate game over, or if you can fall down and just work your way back up, but even if you can fall down and work your way back up, that's still not particularly that useful. There's hack and slash elements to this. And then there's this big tentacles attacking you, and at that point you can see that the ground is filling up with some kind of red fluid. This is $1.19 English and Turkish. And yeah, I just don't think there's enough there. Let's go ahead and hit that.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah, we have a game on Steam called Your Chronicle, which is nothing but text. Free to play, English only, 50 Steam achievements. I don't think there's anything there of interest. Right.
Golly, it's chilly here.
Give 2 olive fields. I guess I can do that. Okay, that might work. Here we have a game on Steam called Hunter 1, which looks like it's just an asset flip attempt at making a game. And it's programmed horribly. $2.69 English only.
It's still freezing.
I suppose it is worth mentioning that I am much nicer as far as Western games that support English, because a game that supports English could be made by like pretty much anybody around the world. Whereas if I were to say, I kind of unfairly say any game that supports Chinese is a Chinese made game. It would be the equivalent of me saying that every English speaking game is a United States made game, which that's not true on either side. But I suppose when I say Chinese game, I'm not implying that it is made by the government, by a citizen or the government of China, as much as it is made by a group that mostly is focusing on the Chinese language, which is about all I can really accurately say.
Lightning storm.
That's hot.
Mana, come forth. My bolts are too fast. I'll fry you to a crisp.
I still feel like my decks kind of suck. Wait. The tournament deck was pretty good, but pretty slow. But arguably, maybe I need to play slower games and actually have a chance of winning, instead of playing fast games and being almost guaranteed a loss. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Mars Accident, which looks like it's a shoot 'em up, for lack of a better description. You're trying to shoot things all over the place. It's $2.39 English and Russian. It does not look visually well polished. Let's see. Go ahead and do that.
If I fall,
Should I do that or should I wait? I think I want to wait. See, Gamatsu has this week's Japanese games releases. Kobodo no Puzzle, which is Kotoba the Puzzle. Moji Piton Encore for PS4 and PC, and Island for Switch. Island, I think, is a visual novel. There's digital listings are several other things, which don't think any of them are things we haven't talked about. I've mostly not been seeing these listings before. Okay. Can we do this?
Spell looks so sweet, you'll
And
get
then-
cavities.
Do we want to do this?
Honey glazed.
And then do we want to do this?
Here comes the sugar rush. sweet enough for you?
The world cycles on.
Let's see. Monster Hunter Rise shipments and digital sales have topped 5 million, so Monster Hunter Rise is doing as well as all the other Monster Hunters, which is to say exceedingly well. A Asakana Koda Room 6 and G Mode have announced a new game project called OU, which I have no idea what that would
All ends here.
be.
I will support the vanguard. Carry on.
Seems like it's going to be some kind of fantasy, I imagine fantasy JRPG if I was to guess. Let's see. 3 damage. That should work.
And it's goodbye, evil.
Have a sip.
That.
No. Happy
Get
for
that.
Monkey.
Here we have a game called Inside My Head, which looks like nothing. Seems to be like a grid movement based game from the looks of it. Trying to avoid collisions. Early access, $1.59, bunch of languages, 11 achievements. What are these?
Between me and
He's playing some strategy here where he's going to try and kill his own characters to do 20, and he's already done 20. Interesting. So this card with this card synergizes for a 1-turn kill. Interesting. Interesting strategy there. Sucks because I was about to win, I felt like. Yeah, I am just not getting anywhere. Here we have a game on Steam called Reconnect, and once we run out of news, I'm just going to call it the end of the day. More and more with Shadowverse, that is what's happening, is I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care if I'm not getting the daily games done. It doesn't matter to me. This game Reconnect looks like a Chinese RPG if I was to guess. $1.99 Chinese only, yeah. It's a little soft in the animation style. Maybe that's intentional, maybe I could think that's intentional, but then I don't think I'd be immediately sold on a game like that. Alright. Here we have a game on Steam called Rabbit Riot, which I think was probably timed around Easter. Looks like it's an asset flip horror around a rabbit. $2.99 English full audio. They're saying it's an action first-person shooter runner. I don't know if you play as a rabbit or if you're playing as... I guess maybe you are playing as a rabbit. Interesting. Not really, though.
A galaxy of gems tumbles and twirls.
Next, we have a game called Errata Zone. Although I think errata is spelled with an E, not an I, but maybe it's both, or maybe this is Eteria Zone. Maybe that's a different word. It looks like a zombie first-person shooter if any of the screenshots would decide to load. Doesn't look terrible. You know what? I almost want to give it a chance. $9.99 English full audio. I think I'd like to give that one a chance.
I'm just warming up.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Galaxy Arena, which looks like it's an arena shooter with maybe 2 guns from the screenshots. 59 cents, English, allegedly full audio. Nothing there of interest.
I serve in hopes of a better tomorrow.
I'm just warming up.
Alright, so this guy, as soon as this one, nope, this one won't summon Earth Essences unless he had been played when there was an Earth Essence already on the field. So I probably should have saved this guy if that was what I was going to do with him. Here we have a game on Steam called Sheriff's Rage, a top-down twin-stick shooter. It seems like it's fairly generic, but there might just be enough in this generic visuals that it puts a game like this in a different place, whereas most top-down twin-stick shooters are just full of enemies and too visually distracting for me to want to play them. Unfortunately, looking at the screenshots, it seems like there's barely 2 areas, and it's 239 English only. I don't think there's enough game there. Okay, well, if I do this,
Embrace your vast potential.
Everything all
I
right
think this
here?
might work.
Opportunities abound.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Loner, which looks like nothing. Looks like an RPG Maker game.
Bow your head.
59 cents, English and Russian.
Awaken, for the end is near.
Yeah, I'm gonna have about 5 games that I'm gonna put on the fall list. And honestly, if I had more time, I probably would
Well,
try to get
this ain't ideal, is it?
Limitless potential.
do a fall list cleanup. Would make some sense. Okay. If I play this, can I play this?
The uncharted desert awaits.
Well, I can play it, certainly.
Hopes of a better tomorrow. Everything all right here?
A fitting end.
You leave a lot to be desired.
Might as well just evolve this guy.
Learn to covet. You leave a lot to be desired. Opportunities abound.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Pop. I assume that's how you pronounce that, or Pop-Op. It seems to be all just around the idea of popping bubbles in a very ugly depiction of bubbles for $3.99 English only. That is extremely, extremely demanding. Okay, we don't have that to play. We could play this. Or we could play this. Not that.
Why, you've got the face of a chameleon.
Think that is the best I could have done. Let's see. Next we have Anime Arena Infinite War. Yet another random low effort game of
The time for regret.
with anime in the name or anime characters in it.
For Vanguard. Carry
Whole bunch
on.
of language they claim to support. Full language, full audio support for every language they claim. $5.99.
You won't lay a finger on Amelia.
I meant it as a compliment.
And see, this developer who's put out this game has like a long list of troll games that have come out December 3rd, November 27th, February 10th of 2021, September 16th of 2020. So it's been 3 or 4 months that they've been in business with us people. I would think that that would be enough. I'm gonna do this.
Uncharted desert awaits.
Oops.
This match is mine.
I'm ready for more. What do we have here? Best of luck to you.
Ice is snow choke. Season sleetings.
That did not play as well as I had hoped, by any means. Next we have VR Nara Park, which Nara I think is the park with the very docile deer in Japan. Which there's an idea there. $8.99 English full audio. I don't know if there really is a VR experience of much to really have going to a virtual park, but yeah, it kind of makes sense too. If I recall correctly, there was a story of being afraid that the deer were going to go hungry because they had forgotten basically how to forage for themselves because they were so hand-fed, and they had to make sure to put out food for the deer during the pandemic.
Wait, how did I lose?
And even compared to like Hearthstone, which was probably the worst before this point, Shadowverse does have just some great ABS as far as the losing goes. It is just far too easy to lose. I don't know if it's a matchmaking issue. It probably is, or what, but I've been going now in 51 minutes. I feel like I've gotten 0 victories except for the private game victory. And I don't think you can do private games to get these quests done. It says ranked, unranked, or arena. And I wouldn't want to go into arena. And I could certainly do unranked. But that's about it. Although it might be interesting to see, like, a Take-Two, how many tickets do I have? I have like 12. So it probably wouldn't hurt me to do a Take-Two next stream. Meanwhile, if you want those rewards, you have to do something different. We have a game on Steam here called The Caregiver. I think we already talked about this. It was a horror game that just doesn't look visually polished enough. Let's look at the user reviews. English and Japanese. Positive. Actually, I'll give this a follow because it might be more of an art style, the bad graphics, than just a bad quality game. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that several of the last 3 tabs are things I left to put on the follow list last stream. Here we have a game called Unite, which feels somewhat like Go, but it isn't Go. I can tell that much. Or Othello. $1.19 English only. Lines of Action, a game created in the 1960s. Players take turns moving, trying to connect their pieces. Yeah, I don't think there's a game in that interests me. Didn't even get halfway through the description before I got bored.
I am a prisoner of this world's whims.
Then we have a game called Small Town Robot, which feels like it's just an asset flip, point and click. Yeah, I just don't think there's enough visual polish there to make me want to play it. Generally speaking, I don't want dark looking point and click adventure games anyways, because almost every point and click adventure game boils down to finding a it boils down to finding a hidden object on the screen so often in point and click adventure games that becomes an issue.
When will this cruelty end?
Alright, well, I'm gonna check the Epic Game Store while I'm here and see what free games are on the Epic Game Store. Tales of the Neon Sea. So, yeah. I'm still building up the Epic Game Store list of games. Just in case Steam at some point did disappear completely and my entire account disappeared. I don't know what in the world could possibly happen to cause that to happen, but better safe than sorry. Alright, well, let's do that.
Golly, it's chilly here.
The next game for free is called 3 out of 10
Calling a lizard.
Season 2. I don't know what that is. It sounds like some kind of
Feels slushy.
unheard of or unimportant, I would say, RPG or something like that. I don't even know. These spells banish cards from my deck. I don't think that's intentionally what I was trying to do.
I won't stop singing until there's world peace. Mana, come forth. Warning, there's as my guitar gently beats.
Another pointless path.
I'll say that for Amazon Prime Gaming, like the in-game loot stuff you get is just total garbage. Total complete garbage. There's no way you're gonna play most, if any, of the games that they give in-game loot to. Free games they're giving are The Escapist, Move or Die, Couch Party Edition, Before I Forget, Ace of the Luftwaffe Squadron, and Moving Out. And again, I'm collecting these games specifically just in case. And that's the only reason. And so after checking those websites, are we ready?
The uncharted desert awaits.
Golly, it's chilly here. You like the cold? Now I feel
And
like
my turn.
crying.
So then, like after that, that brings me to the Humble Bundle. Which, let's see what bundles we've got. Still just the Burn Rubber bundle as far as game bundles. And ever since they changed how the bundles are displayed, I'm not even looking at like the software bundles or the book bundles. They have like the Ultimate Python bookshelf, book bundle, stuffs that kids love, book bundle. Do that. 3 damage. Do I want to really banish cards? I think I have no choice.
You like the cold?
Just
What do
gonna
we
hit
have here?
that and hit that and then the turn.
No way!
So if that's the Humble Bundle, let me reload my Twitter feeds and see if there's any new news. The game came out on Steam. Yeah, honestly, I don't think there's going to be any new news. Let's see. If we do this, we could do this.
Lightning storm.
Now I feel like crying.
This
We can
match is
evolve.
mine. My boats are too fast to see.
Can't be attacked.
Time to tidy things up. Please,
Hmm.
no more.
I am a prisoner of this world's whims.
Good cup tears their prey.
Yeah, I'm just going through each of the Twitter feeds to see if any new news
Do what I
of
want.
importance
No
has come
holding
out.
back.
Not.
Shocked.
Cry for me.
And see, this is almost gets down to the point where we would probably be better off if I just got on some kind of Skype chat with multiple other streamers and formed some kind of coalition in that way. Something that would specifically
Golly, it's
Um,
chilly here.
Honey glazed.
make more of an argument to have somebody talk about something else or talk about games that we were covering. That's kind of the idea of what Giant Bomb was supposed to be, but
Sweet enough.
Giant Bomb in a lot of ways has just boiled down to them basically saying nothing. And yeah, I could imagine that happening too. So,
Will this cruelty end?
like, a smartphone game called Wizardry VA launches in 2020 and has a teaser trailer. Which, what is Wizardry VA? Looks just to me like it's a dungeon crawler with maybe slightly better animation than you would normally expect for a cell phone game. More animations. I imagine any animations you actually did see would be pretty boring. Right, can we do... If I could draw a couple of cards. This, and then this.
Is that a human?
I am a prisoner of this world's whims.
And then we had a game come out on Steam called Captain Copper 2D, which just looks like an old school platform game. Really, really old school platform game. $1.99. Nothing of interest there.
Oh, why'd it have to be a clear
And then that's like literally the only new news that's come out. Yeah, I need to think of a new way of running
How did I lose?
running these streams at this point. Also, my network 15% frame drops today, so yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm actually a little surprised that I even was able to stream at all today. Yeah, now is the time to wrap up. There's just things that are not going to happen here. Maybe I could get a lucky quick disconnect for one victory on Runecraft, but even trying for that is going to be a hassle. Almost certainly not going to get a 3 victories for between Dragoncraft and Bloodcraft. Still need a lot of work done in general with my collection and my cards and just the decks that I've built. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this stream. Thanks to Nutch Lotus for playing me. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, you can friend me on Steam and get me a gift card or a game, or click on the Patreon link. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.